Governing the ancient world required logistical scale that strains modern comprehension. The first emperor of China, Qin Shi Huang, wielded decrees capable of standardizing languages, shifting river currents, and erecting stone barriers that span mountains. He commanded military forces numbering in the hundreds of thousands to enforce his will in the afterlife. Yet, for an autocrat who controlled the lives of millions and remained insulated from the mundane threats of famine or warfare, one insurmountable adversary remained. He was defenseless against his own biology, living in a state of growing paralysis regarding his own mortality. Driven by this fear, the emperor systematically poisoned himself. He obsessively ingested alchemical potions laced with heavy metals to cheat death. When his central nervous system finally collapsed at the age of 49, he was interred beneath this massive earthwork in Xi'an, resting in a tomb that geological surveys confirm is surrounded by mechanical rivers flowing with liquid, toxic mercury. When a ruler holds unquestioned authority and limitless wealth, they fall prey to a dangerous delusion. They begin to assume that earthly logistics can override natural laws, that with enough resources, even the finality of biological death can be conquered. The source material for this quest was cinnabar. Looking closely at this dense, heavy mineral, its striking blood-red hue naturally symbolized fire, vitality, and life energy to ancient philosophers. Ancient metallurgists used a precise alchemical process. They would crush the red stone and feed it into specialized roasting shaft furnaces. By subjecting the ore to intense heat in a sealed environment, they forced a violent thermal decomposition. The sulfur burned away while the remaining element vaporized, traveled through condensation tubes, and rained down as a pure liquid. To an ancient observer, a solid rock had been purified by fire to birth a perfect, unblemished fluid. The resulting substance defied all known categories of matter. It carried the profound weight of a stone, but moved with the mesmerizing fluidity of water. It remained completely immune to the oxidation and biological rot that naturally consumed base metals like iron or copper. The logical deduction of early medical minds was straightforward. A substance that visibly overpowered the natural laws of degradation and state must possess the latent chemical power to halt human aging. Ancient medicine operated without a microscopic vocabulary. Health was understood as a balance of opposing energies and fluid humors. Within this framework, medical practitioners deployed powerful poisons as a respected pharmacological strategy, believing that violent chemical shocks could restore a body to health. When an emperor drank a mercurial elixir, the acute physiological response was immediate and brutal. The human body recognized the lethal threat and attempted to forcefully eject it, resulting in excessive salivation, intense diuresis, and explosive dark digestive purging. Court physicians observed this violent trauma and celebrated. Lacking an understanding of cellular damage, they interpreted the severe biological distress as the medicine working, aggressively routing the illness and flushing out malevolent humors from the patient's system. The tragic confirmation bias was solidified post-mortem. When the patient inevitably succumbed to the toxic overdose, their body, now thoroughly saturated with heavy metals, failed to naturally putrefy. The high concentration of mercury acted as a systemic biocide, sterilizing the tissue and preventing bacterial decay. To grieving disciples, an uncorrupted corpse was a miracle. The absence of decay was treated as empirical proof that the adept had merely shed their physical husk, surviving the violent internal fire to emerge as an immortal spirit. Modern clinical toxicology maps this interaction at the cellular level, revealing a microscopic sabotage. The human brain is guarded by the blood-brain barrier, a selective semi-permeable fortress evolved to keep circulating toxins safely out of our neural tissue. Organic mercury bypasses security using molecular mimicry. Methylmercury binds with L-cysteine, adopting a shape identical to L-methionine, an essential nutrient. Fooled by the silhouette, the brain's gateways grab the toxic complex and ferry it directly into the central nervous system. Once inside, the destruction is rapid. The mercury aggressively hunts for and binds to structural proteins and enzymes. By latching onto these pillars, it violently contorts their shape,
and deactivates the cell's antioxidant engines, allowing free radicals to trigger mass cellular death. The microscopic destruction perfectly explains the macroscopic history. The Elixir's ancient rulers consumed to secure their reigns were actively dissolving the delicate neural architecture they required to rule. It systematically destroyed their neurotransmitters, inducing the paranoia, unpredictable rage, and tremors that marked their final days. This lethal fascination spanned Eurasia. Medieval Islamic polymaths developed the sulfur-mercury theory, proposing complex matter was composed of measurable ratios of these fundamental blocks. Across Eurasia, alchemists operated as early laboratory chemists. They pioneered methodologies through trial and error, moving natural philosophy into physical evidence. To synthesize and purify these heavy metals, they engineered sealed crucibles, distillation apparatuses, and documented precise boiling points of dozens of materials. The most dedicated practitioners routinely subjected themselves to neurotoxicity, inadvertently inventing the laboratory methodologies that would eventually build the modern scientific method. Long after the myth of the immortality elixir faded, the chemical threat evolved. By the 18th and 19th centuries, the European hat-making industry widely utilized a toxic solution of hot mercury nitrate to separate animal fur. Working in poorly ventilated rooms, hatters inhaled massive quantities of ionized mercury vapor. The resulting epidemic of occupational neurotoxicity caused localized tremors, pathological shyness, and hallucinations, permanently embedding the phrase "mad as a hatter" into cultural history. Today, humanity battles unintentional systemic exposure. In the mid-20th century, thousands of tons of untreated industrial wastewater containing mercury were dumped into Japan's Minamata Bay. The chemical bioaccumulated up the food chain, causing catastrophic neurological poisoning across the human population. The exact property that made mercury appear divine to the ancient world, its stubborn inability to be destroyed, is the reason it cycles endlessly through our modern oceans, soil, and atmosphere as a persistent biohazard. The millennia-long legacy of liquid silver is a testament to the paralyzing human fear of mortality. When confronted with the finality of death, the human mind will enthusiastically embrace the most venomous of delusions, consuming the very poison that destroys it.